Alright, so let's see if we can't recreate this effect. So I've already got this clipped. Let me unclip it and show you what we have here. So initially I thought you were talking about making this pattern overlay the design that's already existing here in this pineapple. What I didn't realize is that you were trying to create the pineapple from this design. So that's an entirely different process. One thing you need to know about strokes is they really don't have any weight to them. And by weight, I mean you can make them infinitely thick, but as soon as we go and look at the wireframe, which is Control Y, you'll notice that the thickness here doesn't really represent the thickness here. So essentially you have a shape and you have this imaginary stroke added to the outside of it. It doesn't actually have that thickness. So if we swap that and make it a fill, Shift X to swap between fill and stroke. This on the wireframe is exactly what we see, whereas the stroke is not. Now what you can do is Object, Expand, and make sure fill and stroke are checked, hit OK, and now we've converted that stroke to a fill, so when we swap to the wireframe you'll notice that the shape actually has some form and some thickness to it. Oh, that's interesting. Something kind of odd there, didn't expect that. Anyway, let's try and recreate this effect using your shape and see what we come up with. So let's start with the circle, and we'll just set this to 1. Play with the appearance here and do a transform. Let's say maybe 10. I'm going to make some assumptions here. I think 30 copies, something like that. Oh, close. 40. 40 it is. Alright, so we've recreated this. Now, if we go to the wireframe, you'll notice it's just a shape. We basically created a bunch of imaginary shapes out of one shape with the appearance panel. So in the wireframe, we just have a circle. So what I always do is I'll make a copy, throw that off to the side in case I screw something up. And we're going to go ahead and expand. And now we have a bunch of strokes. Now I'm going to go ahead and expand again, fill and stroke. So now we have a bunch of fills, and you can see how they're overlapping each other. Now currently it defaults as a group, so let's ungroup them multiple times until we get to a compound path. And then I'm going to go to my Pathfinder tools and I'm going to merge all of these together using the Unite. And now we don't have any overlap. They're all flattened together. It's one compound shape. So now that we've got that taken care of, let's kind of replicate your square here. And I'm going to base it off the dead center of that. Well, and let's round the corners off. We'll grab these two and align them to center of each other. You've got a couple options there too. I'll show you here. This little drop down will allow you to align it to the artboard. So if we hit center, it'll jump to the dead center of the artboard. And that'll come in handy quite a bit, especially if you're doing symmetry and you want things to be dead center. So let's pull this up to here, and I'm going to kind of eyeball. Actually, I'll show you another trick that I like to use. So we'll go in, we'll try and find the center, and if we can't get it dead on, that's fine. We just want to get the shape in the general area. So we'll align these two to center each other, and now I'll hide this shape, and then using this center point of this shape, which you can see in the wireframe, we'll drag this up and align it there. And now I can pull this down, we'll kill that, and Control Alt 3 to reveal. And let's pull this up. So looks like I went a little overboard there on that, but nifty little set of tools that you can use. So we'll bring this down somewhere in there. Looks good. So initially I told you to use a clipping mask, but actually what we want to use And it's another instance where I'm going to make a copy in case I screw something up. Use the Pathfinder tools again, and I'm going to use the intersect. So what happens is the object that's above the below object will intersect this object, and anything inside of this object is the only thing we're going to be left with. So let's do that. Alright, so now we have the basic form of the pineapple, and I did screw something up. I want to copy that. So let's copy, intersect, paste, and then I'm going to swap that fill to a stroke, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and expand this, and then we'll merge that all together. So now we have solid lines all the way around. And now what we want to get to is something similar to this. So now I'm going to use the absolute reverse of that. I want to use Control-Alt-Shift-8. We're going to break that compound object apart, and then I'm going to grab this outermost object and delete it. So now if we look, we have essentially the reverse, and what that is, you can do it a couple ways here. If we go back in time, you can double click on this and you can go in and you can affect the interior objects. So this shape here is basically intersecting this shape, and since they're combined into a single shape, this one knocks that one out and we can see through it. So if I were to throw a object behind it, throw that to the back, Shift X. Oh, and I've got some overlap from this image, so let's pull these over. You'll see that it's transparent. So let's get rid of that and go in, and since this shape intersects this, we can actually take that shape and just delete it instead of using Control-Alt-Shift-8, which breaks it apart. So now we've got a compound path. Well, I don't really want a compound path, I want a set of objects. So let's do this. Control-Shift-8, we'll break it apart again. And now, actually no, let's not do that. Let's use the wonderful world of symmetry to our benefit. Drag this down, and then we'll subtract the left-hand side so that we only have half as many objects to work with. Break that apart, and then now I'm going to come in with the pen tool and I'm going to start drawing some shapes. And let's do this in a different color so that we can tell that we have drawn them. And this is kind of the tedious part of this, because we're going to have to do one for each of these. Let's just make some assumptions here on these. And if I was really careful about this, I could probably get by with just doing the one path intersection. So let's see if we can't try that. And draw these shapes in the interior so that we can try and avoid overlapping each other, and then I'll just go back and clean the other ones up here in a moment. Saving a little bit of time because these are essentially done for us. And you'll notice that everything's snapping for me real quickly. I'll show you where that is. Smart Cuts, Control-U. You turn that on, and basically you're snapping to points and objects, the intersections between those objects. Makes keeping everything nice and clean and even a lot easier. sure we got them all. We do. Alright, so let's clean these up so that they're not overlapping anymore. I'm using the direct selection tool, which is A on the keyboard. V will give you selection, A will give you direct selection, and then you will be able to grab a hold of the Bezier handles and points for each sub-object. You see I use space a lot. That's so you can pan around. Alright, so now that we've got all of these shapes created, I don't want to go through and individually select them. I'll show you another trick. Select one, select same fill color, and now I have all of them. So let's save some time. We'll Control 8. We'll make that one single object now. And let's grab these. Those are as a group. Let's ungroup and combine those into an object. So now I'm going to take both of these, copy them to the clipboard, and then I'm going to do another intersection here. So now we have the opposite side of those objects. Let's paste them back in place. Delete that. Oh, no. Let's subtract from that selection now. So now we have an entire shape of nothing but the other half. And now we'll go to Object, Transform, Reflect, and we'll do it on the vertical. So copy these, and you'll notice that I will have to do a little bit of work here. Oh, come on, snap. There we go. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to change it to that color, select that, change it to that color. Oh, that was kind of unexpected. We want these all on this side. Let's get rid of that selection. Let's cut those, paste them in place, set it to that color, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. Let's grab all of these. Make sure we're not selecting anything else besides the ones we want. Oh, wait, yep. Paste those. Use the eyedropper, pop those in, and there you go. And that is essentially it. And since these are much easier now to select, say select same fill color, combine those into a single object, and do the same thing here. Select same fill color, deselect that and that, combine that into a single object. So now we just have two main objects here, and these shapes up here should be pretty easy to just draw kind of free-handed. So if you use those as a base, and then come back and do the same thing that we did earlier, copy those to the clipboard, intersect, and then subtract, and now we've got two separate objects. And there you go. That's pretty much it. Hope you learned something and hope it's useful. Enjoy.